When my boss told me I'd be training someone special for an important role, I assumed it was a fast-track executive program. What I didn't know was that I'd spend 6 months teaching someone who couldn't use Excel how to do my job, and then watch her get promoted to become my direct supervisor. The day she called me into her new corner office to discuss my attitude problem, I finally understood what was really happening.
I'd been a senior data analyst at Meridian Financial Services for 7 years. In that time, I've built forecasting models that saved the company over $12 million, trained 19 new analysts, and consistently received exceeds expectations on every single performance review. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because what happened to me should never happen to anyone who works that hard. It started on a Tuesday in March when our VP of Operations, Brittany Holloway, called me into his office with an unusual request. "Marcus," he said, leaning back in his leather chair, "I need you to take on a mentorship role. We have a new hire joining next week, and I want you personally to train her. She's got tremendous potential." I was flattered. Richard had never asked me to take point on training someone before. Usually that fell to the team leads. "Of course," I said. "What's her background?" Richard shifted uncomfortably. "She's coming from a different industry, marketing, actually, but she's eager to learn, and I think with your guidance, she'll be an asset to the analytics team." Marketing? We were a data analytics department. Our entry-level positions required at minimum a statistics degree or 2 years of quantitative experience, but I trusted Richard. I figured there must be something special about this candidate. Her name was Brittany Holloway. Yes, Holloway. She was Richard's 24-year-old daughter, fresh out of a brief stint at a boutique marketing firm that, I later learned, her mother owned. She showed up on her first day wearing designer clothes that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, carrying a latte in one hand and a rose gold iPhone in the other. "So, you're gonna show me all the computer stuff, right?" she asked, settling into the empty desk beside mine. I smiled professionally. "I'll be training you on our analytics systems, yes. Have you worked with any data visualization tools before? Tableau? Power BI? She blinked at me. "Is that like Canva?" I took a deep breath. Not exactly. What followed was 6 months of the most exhausting, patience-testing experience of my career. Brittany didn't know how to write a basic Excel formula. She couldn't grasp the difference between mean and median. She took 2-hour lunches and left early almost every day, always with some excuse about a yoga class or a hair appointment that she literally could not reschedule. But the most frustrating part, whenever Richard walked by, she would suddenly become intensely focused on her screen, nodding along as I explained concepts she clearly didn't understand. "She's really coming along, isn't she?" Richard would say, beaming at his daughter. I knew she had it in her. I didn't have the heart or the job security to tell him the truth, that I was spending 4 hours a day doing remedial training that should have been unnecessary, that I was quietly fixing her mistakes before anyone noticed, that the reports she submitted were actually templates I had created for her, with her just filling in numbers I had already calculated. My actual work suffered. I started coming in at 6 in the morning just to get my own projects done before Brittany arrived and needed my attention. My colleagues noticed. "You look exhausted, man," said Devin, one of the other senior analysts. "Is the Holloway girl really that bad? I asked her yesterday what a pivot table was. We've covered pivot tables 11 times. Devin winced. "And Richard still thinks she's doing great? He thinks she's a prodigy. He actually used that word." By August, I had essentially been doing 2 jobs for 5 months. My own performance metrics started slipping because I simply didn't have enough hours in the day. But I kept telling myself it would be worth it. Once Brittany was trained, once she could function independently, things would go back to normal. Then came the September reorganization. Richard called a department-wide meeting to announce structural changes. I sat in the back, barely paying attention, until I heard him say something that made my blood run cold. "I'm pleased to announce that after demonstrating exceptional growth and aptitude, Brittany Holloway will be promoted to Director of Analytics Operations. She'll be overseeing workflow optimization and personnel management for the entire analytics team." The room went silent. I looked around. Everyone was staring at me. Director of Analytics Operations was the position I had been promised, 18 months ago, Richard himself had told me I was being groomed for that role. He said I just needed to demonstrate leadership capabilities, which I assumed was why he had me training Brittany in the first place. I had been set up. Brittany stood up, smoothing her designer skirt, and gave a little wave to the room. I'm so excited to lead this amazing team. I've learned so much from all of you, especially Marcus. He's been like my work dad. Work dad? I was 34 years old, she was 24, and she had just been promoted to be my boss. After the meeting, I tried to catch Richard, but he disappeared into a conference call. I sent him 3 emails requesting a meeting. No response. When I finally cornered him in the hallway 2 days later, he gave me a practiced smile. Marcus, I know this might feel sudden, but Brittany has shown remarkable leadership qualities. This is what's best for the team. Richard, with all due respect, I've been doing this job for 7 years. Brittany can't even run a regression analysis without help. His smile tightened. I'd be careful about how you talk about your new supervisor. Brittany has my confidence. He walked away before I could respond.
Okay, I need to stop here for a second because I genuinely want to know, am I crazy? Was I supposed to just accept this? Hit subscribe if you think this was the most blatant case of nepotism you've ever heard, and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in this moment, because I was standing in that hallway seriously considering walking out the door for good. But here's the thing, what happened next made everything so much worse. Keep listening. The first week of Brittany's directorship was a masterclass in incompetence. She scheduled a team meeting for 8 in the morning on a Monday, then showed up 45 minutes late with another latte, explaining that her spin class ran long. She sent an email to a major client with a spreadsheet attached, a spreadsheet filled with dummy data I had created for a training exercise, not actual financial projections. I caught it just in time and had to frantically call the client to explain that she had sent the wrong file. But the worst part was the way she talked to me now, like I was her personal assistant rather than a senior analyst with 7 years of experience. "Marcus, can you grab me lunch? I'm swamped." She wasn't swamped, she was scrolling Instagram. "Marcus, this report doesn't make sense. Fix it." It made perfect sense. She just didn't understand compound interest. "Marcus, I need you to stay late and redo the quarterly projections. They don't look right." They looked right because I had done them correctly. She wanted me to change the numbers because they didn't tell the story her father wanted to hear. That last one was the breaking point. "Brittany," I said carefully, "these projections are based on actual data. If we change them, we'd be misrepresenting our financial position to the board." She rolled her eyes. "My dad said the numbers need to be more optimistic. Just make them more optimistic." "That's not how financial projections work." Her expression hardened. "I'm your supervisor, Marcus. I'm telling you to do something, and you need to do it." I refused. I documented everything in an email, CCing myself on my personal account. I wasn't going to commit fraud because a 24-year-old who couldn't do long division told me to. 2 days later, I was called into an HR meeting. Sitting across from me was Linda from Human Resources and Richard Holloway himself. Between them was a folder. "Marcus," Linda began, "we've received several complaints about your behavior and attitude over the past few weeks." "Complaints? From who?" "From your direct supervisor. Director Holloway has documented multiple instances of insubordination, hostility, and refusal to complete assigned tasks." I almost laughed. Almost. "Can I see these documented instances?" Linda slid the folder across the table. Inside were 6 formal complaints, all signed by Brittany, all dated within the past week. According to these documents, I had yelled at her in front of colleagues, which I hadn't, refused to attend mandatory meetings, which I had attended every single one, and created a hostile work environment through intimidating body language. "This is fabricated," I said. "Every word of this is a lie." Richard leaned forward. "Marcus, I understand you're upset about the reorganization, but this kind of retaliatory behavior is exactly why Brittany was chosen for leadership over you. You lack the temperament." I stared at him, the man who had promised me a promotion, the man who had used me to train his unqualified daughter, the man who was now trying to gaslight me into believing I was the problem. "I have documentation," I said quietly, "emails, training logs, timestamps showing exactly how many hours I spent compensating for Brittany's lack of skills. I have the original quarterly projections and the request she made for me to falsify them." Richard's face went pale. "What?" "I've been keeping records since day one. Every fixed mistake,
every covered error, every instance where I did her work for her, including the time she nearly sent falsified data to Hartman Capital because she didn't understand the difference between projected and actual revenue. Linda's eyes widened. Falsified data? I continued. The Hartman file. Check the sent folder, the original file she attached, then check the file that was actually delivered, which I had to personally call and replace because she attached a training dummy instead of real projections. Richard stood up. This meeting is over. Marcus, you're suspended pending investigation. Fine, but you should know I've already forwarded everything to my personal email and to my attorney, and if I'm terminated, I'll be filing complaints with the Department of Labor and the SEC regarding the falsification request. The room went very quiet. My suspension lasted 3 days. On the 4th day, I received a call from the CEO's office, not Richard's, the CEO himself, a man named Gregory Chen, who I had met exactly twice in 7 years. Gregory had done his homework. He had reviewed my documentation, he had checked the Hartman file timestamps, he had pulled the server log showing how many times I had accessed Brittany's work files to make corrections. "Marcus," he said, "I owe you an apology on behalf of this company." Richard was removed from his position 2 weeks later. Not fired, they gave him a quiet, early retirement package to avoid scandal. Brittany was transferred to a made-up position in a satellite office where she couldn't do any real damage. And me? I was offered the Director of Analytics Operations position, the one I had been promised 18 months ago, the one I had earned through 7 years of dedication and 6 months of thankless mentorship. I turned it down. Instead, I negotiated a severance package and a glowing letter of recommendation. I used them to land a VP position at a competitor firm, making 40% more than I would have as a director at Meridian. Last month, I heard through the grapevine that Brittany had been let go from her satellite office position. Apparently, without someone to fix her mistakes, her incompetence became impossible to hide. And Richard? He's consulting now, which in corporate speak means unemployed and pretending otherwise. Sometimes I think about those 6 months, all those early mornings, all those fixed spreadsheets, all that patience wasted on someone who never appreciated it and never would. But I also think about what I learned. Document everything, trust no one's promises, and know your worth. Because the moment you let someone treat you like a stepping stone, that's exactly what you become.
Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever dealt with blatant nepotism or watched someone unqualified get promoted over you, I want to hear about it in the comments. And if you're enjoying these workplace stories, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. We post new stories every week, and if you've got your own workplace nightmare you want to share, drop it in the comments or send it our way. Your story might be featured in our next video. Until then, take care of yourselves out there.